They said Filipinos' English is terrible until a Harvard professor proved them wrong. That one sentence set the internet on fire when it first appeared online. Because for years, the world has mocked, doubted, and underestimated the way Filipinos speak English. From YouTube comments to online interviews, from job applications abroad to casual conversations with tourists, the criticism was the same. Your accent sounds funny. Your grammar isn't perfect. You sound too American or not American enough. But what if the entire world was wrong about how Filipinos speak English? What if what they call broken English is actually one of the most fascinating and intelligent linguistic evolutions in modern history? That's exactly what one Harvard professor set out to explain, and by the time he was done, no one could laugh again. It started during an international education forum, where a group of linguistic scholars gathered to discuss how English was evolving in the 21st century. Representatives from the US, UK, Canada, and Australia spoke first, proudly showcasing their standardized English models. Then came a quiet moment when a professor from Harvard, an older man known for his sharp wit, took the floor. He showed a slide with one phrase written across it, Taglish. The room chuckled. Some people whispered. Others smirked. But the professor didn't smile. He said, "What you see as a joke is actually one of the most complex forms of adaptive bilingual communication in the modern world." The room fell silent. He continued, "If you want to understand how language evolves with intelligence and practicality, look at the Philippines." He explained that for centuries, Filipinos have been exposed to multiple languages, Tagalog, Spanish, Chinese, and English, creating a natural linguistic flexibility that most Western countries could only dream of. When a Filipino switches between Tagalog and English mid-sentence, he said, "It's not confusion, it's precision." They choose the word that fits the meaning best. That's not broken English. That's mastery. The crowd didn't know how to respond. Some of them had spent their entire careers studying language purity, only to be told that their strict rules were being outsmarted by everyday Filipinos who were never even trying to impress anyone. The professor continued, "Filipinos are among the few in the world who can think, feel, and communicate across languages without even realizing they're doing something extraordinary. That's not a flaw, it's a gift." This wasn't just flattery. The data backed him up. The Philippines consistently ranks among the top English-speaking nations in the world in global fluency tests. The Business English Index once placed the Philippines above many European countries. American companies outsource billions of dollars in services every year to Filipino professionals because of their communication skills, empathy, and clarity of thought. Yet, despite all this, social media keeps mocking Filipino English, focusing on accents, local slang, or small grammatical differences. The professor addressed that too. "Language is not about sounding Western," he said. "It's about being understood. And Filipinos are among the most understood English speakers in Asia." He pointed to an experiment where participants from 15 different countries were asked to listen to English speakers from around the world. Surprisingly, listeners found the Filipino accent easier to understand than many others, including some British regional accents. Why? Because Filipinos unconsciously adapt their tone and pacing to match who they're talking to. They don't just speak English, they listen in English. This ability to adjust is linguistic empathy, the professor said. And that is what makes Filipino English unique. The audience began to nod. You could feel the respect growing in the room. The professor then shared a story about one of his Filipino students at Harvard, a young woman who grew up in Cebu and spoke English with a heavy Visayan tone. When she first entered his class, she was shy, always apologizing for her accent. She would say, "Sorry, my English is not good." And I told her, "Then how are you studying in one of the most difficult universities in the world, in a language that isn't even your first?" The class laughed, but he wasn't joking. He told her, "Your English doesn't need to sound like mine. It needs to sound like yours." That student graduated with top honors and eventually became a lecturer herself, teaching communication and cross-cultural linguistics at an Ivy League school. Her accent didn't stop her. It made her stand out. The professor paused and looked around the room. "The problem isn't Filipino English," he said. "The problem is how the world defines what good English should sound like. English, after all, isn't owned by the British or Americans anymore. It's a global language, spoken in countless forms. From Indian English to Nigerian English to Singaporean English. Each one carries a nation's history, rhythm, and personality. Filipino English, he said, is not an imitation. It's innovation. He compared it to jazz music. It bends rules without breaking meaning. It improvises without losing rhythm. It's alive. After his talk, the forum organizers published his paper titled The Intelligence of Adaptation: Why Filipino English is the Future of Global Communication. Within months, it was shared by language departments across universities worldwide. Linguists began studying Filipino English not as a flawed dialect, but as a model of linguistic adaptability. In one study, researchers found that Filipino English speakers could effortlessly shift between formal and casual tones faster than most native English speakers. Another study noted that the way Filipinos use humor, empathy, and contextual clues in English made their communication style exceptionally effective in multicultural environments. It wasn't just about words, it was about connection. That's why, today, Filipinos dominate the global service and communication industries. From call centers to tech companies, from teachers to medical professionals. They can adjust their speech to sound American to one client, neutral to another, or comfortably Filipino to a fellow Kababayan. And it's not fake, it's flexible intelligence. The professor concluded his speech with a smile. So, the next time you hear a Filipino say, "It's okay, my English is not perfect," tell them it's better than you think. Because in truth, Filipino English isn't broken. It's beautifully evolved. Those words went viral later, quoted in articles, shared on social media, and even turned into motivational posters. But the professor's deeper message was this: the way Filipinos speak English is not a reflection of inferiority, but survival and genius. Think about it. A small island nation, once colonized, turned the language of its colonizers into a tool of power, education, and connection. Filipinos didn't just learn English, they reshaped it. They made it warmer, more human, more adaptable to emotion. When an American says, "How are you?" it's often casual. When a Filipino says, "How are you?" it can mean, "I care. Tell me the truth." The heart behind the words is what makes it different. The professor reminded everyone that the Philippines produces millions of English-speaking professionals every year. Not because of Western influence, but because of the country's deep cultural relationship with communication. Filipinos use English not just to impress, but to connect, to teach, to heal, to make people laugh, to make them feel heard. That's something grammar can't measure. And that's what the world often misses. Even when Filipinos joke online using funny expressions like "nosebleed, I can feel it in my bones," or "push mo yin," they're not breaking English, they're expanding it. They're adding soul to it. The same language that once symbolized colonial power is now being used by Filipinos to tell their own stories. To sing, to write, to teach, to inspire. And that is poetic justice. Near the end of his talk, the Harvard professor shared one last example. He played two audio clips, one from a British journalist reading the news, and another from a Filipino teacher explaining science to her students in English. Then he asked the audience, "Which one do you think communicates better?" Most chose the Filipino teacher. "Exactly," he said. "Communication is not about accent. It's about clarity, emotion, and connection." And Filipinos understand that instinctively. The room gave him a standing ovation. Months later, his lecture was uploaded online and viewed by millions of Filipinos around the world. Comments flooded in, some proud, some emotional, some simply saying, "Thank you for making us feel seen." Others wrote, "Finally, someone said it. Our English is not wrong. It's ours." And that's the truth that has been hiding in plain sight. Every good morning, every take care always, every by the way, can I ask a question? Those little touches that make Filipino English unique are not mistakes. They're evidence of a culture that uses language to care, not to dominate. They said Filipinos' English is terrible. But today, the same global industries that once mocked it rely on it. The same schools that ignored it now study it. The same people who laughed at it now hire it. That's the sweetest kind of revenge. The kind that doesn't need anger, only excellence. So the next time someone mocks your English, remember what that Harvard professor said. Language doesn't belong to the perfect. It belongs to the people who use it to connect. And no one connects quite like a Filipino. From classrooms in Manila to hospitals in Dubai, from call centers in Cebu to boardrooms in New York, Filipino English has become a bridge between worlds. Not broken, not inferior, just beautifully, unmistakably Filipino.